Brazilian players accelerated quickly. With just one more easy goal, they would defend their 2021 World Cup title. Suddenly, arcs of electricity appeared in the center of the field. Accompanied by blinding light, an invisible shockwave swept through the entire stadium. Before tens of thousands of fans, a team of fully armed soldiers slowly emerged from the electric lake. Immediately after, a woman emerged from the center of the electric lake. She looked around and revealed a harsh reality to humanity. In 2051, a bloodthirsty beast named White Long Ice. They descended upon Earth without warning, reproduced rapidly, and used humans as tools. In just 2 years, Earth was completely reduced to ruins, and humanity dwindled to less than 500,000. In a life and death moment, scientists invented a time machine and sent them back to 2021. Seeking help, if no aid is received, the remaining humans will become extinct in 11 months. This unprecedented news rapidly spread to every corner of Earth. For the continuation of the human race, nations worldwide set aside their existing conflicts and formed an international alliance. With the help of future humans, humanity built numerous climb portals to send large volumes of video to the future. To combat White Long Ice, their service term was only 7 days, but they clearly underestimated the invaders' terror. Very few soldiers survived the first patch. Facing a huge shortage of soldiers, countries around the world uniformly decided to conscript ordinary civilians to join the fight. Meanwhile, retired Special Forces soldier Chris is now a biology teacher. While he was teaching a class, he suddenly received a draft message. At the recruitment building, Chris followed the instructions and placed his arm into a specific machine. Additionally, the system concluded that he would die in 2030. He met all conditions without altering the future timeline and remained eligible to travel and join the battle. His forearm housed the teleportation device despite sharp pain. After briefly saying goodbye to his family, Chris entered the training camp. Most people here were novices who couldn't even handle a gun. Originally, they were scheduled to train for 7 days, but an alarm blared in the middle of the night. Humans in the future faced a major crisis, and the reserve team had to immediately go for reinforcements. Once everyone assembled, the time machine was activated. A ring pattern teleportation portal opened, disassembling the 3-member team into particles rushing to the future. Suddenly, the system alerted an error. The reinforcement team appeared hundreds of meters away. Those unlucky were directly smashed to the ground, shattered into pieces, with only a few falling into rooftop pools. A large number became undead. Chris looked into the distance and realized the future was worse than expected. This was the United States in 2051, devastated by the alien creatures called White Long Ding. The entire city turned into ruins. Captain Chris received orders to head to a nearby research facility. The rescue research team soldiers cooperated and successfully reached the research center. However, the numerous bone spikes on the walls made Chris feel uneasy. He looked up to the top of the building, and indeed the entire research team had been wiped out. The commander could only change orders to bring all research results back to base. At that moment, the sentry raised an alarm. White Long Ding had discovered them. The entire team evacuated through the backup stairs, but it was already too late. White Long Ding's defense is extremely formidable. Their stomachs and throats are their only weak points. The 2 tails growing on their backs can still shoot bone spikes comparable to bullets. Facing terrifying monsters, soldiers were pushed back step by step, and seeing teammates dragged away, Chris stayed to cover the rear until bullets were spent, lying on the ground. Still not dead, he had to break open a nearby fire hydrant, pick up an axe, and swing it at the opponent's chin, pinning him firmly in place. But when his comrades arrived, a gunshot ended the enemy's life. The group who had just escaped the research institute received another piece of bad news. The bombing strike would lodge an indiscriminate attack on the entire city in 3 minutes. The good news was that they saw the rescue team, but before they could rejoice, a group of white long nails appeared. The armored vehicles in front of them were torn apart like toys. As the bomber flew just above their heads, time was running out. To cover the team's evacuation, the wounded soldiers decided to stay behind. They showed no fear, continuously putting the triggers against the charging monsters. Along with the roars of the white long nails, the bomber also dropped high explosive bombs. Amid the blazing fire, the city was completely turned into ruins. Waiting for Chris to wake up, he was already at the temporary base with his team. Only 3 survived. During the mission report, Chris was surprised to discover that the commander was actually his daughter, Molly. It turned out that all of this was part of Molly's plan. They extracted a toxin from the pathogen Chris brought back, which can kill male white long nails but has no effect on females. Their reproduction rate is faster than the death rate. Just now, a team discovered the queen's nest of the White Long Ding. The commander immediately ordered them to capture her. The queen's nest has several entrances and exits. The flamethrowers blocked the queen inside one of them, and then an assault team entered to find a way to subdue her, but the queen is much larger than the males. After incurring heavy casualties, they finally trapped him in a cage. Once lifted off the ground by the aircraft, the queen let out a piercing roar, and a large number of foraging white workers surged in like a tidal wave. Soldiers who couldn't evacuate in time were quickly overwhelmed, while Chris and Molly boarded an armored vehicle and fortunately escaped. After running hundreds of kilometers, the 2 waited for rescue by the sea. They took a plane, covering over 1,000 kilometers, and finally reached the Pacific Center, humanity's last stronghold. The remaining 5,000 humans are all hiding here, barely surviving. The Queen continuously attacks Longzhu, obviously sensing the impending tragic events. Alien monsters invaded Earth. Humans fought desperately to capture them. The Queen imprisoned them in a research institute, extracting a tube of blood from their bodies every 2 hours. After thousands of tests and comparisons, they successfully developed a virus to eliminate all the invading white longdings from Earth before they could celebrate. Suddenly, the Queen awakened and let out a series of roars. The base radar sounded the alarm. Tens of thousands of white longdings are assaulting humanity's last defense line, along with numerous armed patrol planes. And soldiers are firing wildly. However, against these emotionless monsters, they are unable to stop them. The only way to save humanity now is to activate the time machine, sending Chris back 30 years with the virus. With only 8 minutes left before the portal opens, the white longdings have already stormed into the research institute, releasing their contents. He followed the scent outside, determined to tear Chris Finmuli, who was experimenting on him, to shreds. Facing the surrounding white longdings blocking their path, the two could only gather toward the soldiers. As a result, halfway, Millie was ambushed and severely injured by the Queen. Worse, a cruise ship loaded with civilians was completely overrun and crashed into the underwater platform. Severe explosions caused the platform to begin collapsing, and all rescue planes crashed into the ocean. With only 1 minute left before the transfer, Millie handed over the virus. They instructed Chris to definitely stop this human catastrophe. At that moment, the Queen found them, and the platform also underwent a large-scale collapse. Millie was captured by the Queen and fell together from the high platform. Looking down at tens of thousands of monsters below, Chris hesitated not at all and jumped down, and with the teleport countdown ending, his body gradually disintegrated. He was directly sent back to 2022. Although he brought back the virus, the military told Chris that in the future, humans had already become extinct, and the teleportation portal could not be reopened. Furthermore, they couldn't determine exactly when Bai Changding landed on Earth. The people of today could only wait for extinction, but Chris did not sit and wait. He believed that the time of Bai Changding's attack was not the landing time. By studying the claws brought back by the teammates, they discovered that there were remnants on the claws. The volcanic ash from AD 948 basically confirms that Bai Changding had already landed on Earth from Russia over 1,000 years ago. He informed the military of his findings, but the other party did not believe them at all. With no other options, Chris could only seek help from his father, Old Bai, and gather other teammates to pilot a transport plane. They arrived at the Russian Arctic Islands. The detector showed there were energy fluctuations beneath the glacier ahead. Following the glacier's crevasse, several people journeyed downward to explore. Finally, in a huge ice cavern, they discovered a spaceship that had been frozen in ice for over 1,000 years. Chris decided that Old Bai and Xiaohei would stay outside. He led the others into the spaceship. In the main control hall, they saw the remains of aliens. The spaceship's cargo hold was filled with a large number of Bai Changding's cultivated hides. Chris believes they are weapons used by aliens to invade other planets. When the virus is injected into the cultivation chamber, the white longnails slowly attack. The sounds of deadly, piercing screams cause the Queen to awaken early. He quickly escaped the spaceship amidst its great turmoil under the cover of his two companions. All the white longnails inside the spaceship awaken early. Teammates risked their lives covering Chris in pursuit of the Queen, detonating bombs and causing the spaceship's self-destruction. You go. The remaining three, Blatty is already exhausted. Chris and Fu Jingshun's footprints led them to discover the Queen at the edge of a cliff. Facing the human who has eliminated countless companions, he angrily roars and charges at them. The father and son worked together seamlessly, standing on both sides and exchanging fire. Quickly, the Queen's eyes were blown out, and she could only randomly fire bones from her position. Chris seized the opportunity to directly shove the ongoing virus into her mouth. Faced with the dissolving body, this emotionless monster also developed fear. He began to slowly retreat, but Chris obviously would not give him the slightest chance. With the demise of the white longnails, the greatest crisis humanity faced dissipated into thin air.